All right, welcome in to what do we call this one? Oh, yard prep. I always forget. I'm Ethan Skolnick. You can follow me at Ethan J. Skolnick at 5 Reasons Sports. I got Michael Quirk, and I've got Eric Wadicki. We're going to take you up until Dolphins Cowboys are relatively close. We're sponsored here by Prize Picks. Use the code 5, FIVE. Get that initial deposit matched up to $100. This is free money. There are no rollovers as long as you use the code FIVE. Get that initial deposit match up to $100 on Prize Picks. You don't need to play it all at once. You don't need to put down $100. We recommend it because they will match that, but you can put down $10 and they'll match that, and you're ready to play. So you can play not only the NFL games today, we'll talk about Dolphins Cowboys, but also full slate of NBA Christmas coming up tomorrow, including the Heat and the Sixers. For those who watch this channel regularly, you know we'll be covering that pretty heavily. Also, check out Prize Picks on 5. Eric and I did one with David Eversole earlier today, and we'll see if we still like the picks that we liked 2 hours ago. We're going to play both sides of this. All right, let's get to the inactives here before we do, and I apologize for some of the background noise. I am at the stadium. Xavier Howard is active. Austin Jackson is active. Robert Hunt is inactive. We expected that. Javon Holland is inactive. We expected that. River Craycroft is inactive. So those are the key actives and inactives today. So the Dolphins will have their two starting cornerbacks today. And let's start there because there was a lot of conversation this week, and there seemed to be a little irritation from Jalen Ramsey about the question of whether or not he'd be shadowing CeeDee Lamb. He doesn't necessarily have to now because they have Xavier Howard back. So, Eric, I'll start with you here. How do they handle this? Because Dallas's offense has not run the ball very well on the road. They've been a little bit more reliant on their outside receivers. How do the Dolphins and Vic Fangio approach this today?
I think ideally the Dolphins and Vic Fangio want to approach this by you don't want to get too aggressive with this Cowboys offense right now, especially considering that they're down Tyron Smith. So I think the emphasis is going to be, hey, let's try to go ahead and get our rush with 4. We're not going to send a bunch of blitzes today. We're going to make sure that we're not too aggressive, not to make mistakes, because against a really good offense, and Dallas does have a very good offense, even though they've struggled on the road, you don't want to get too aggressive and put yourself into a position where you could be hurting the team, because Dallas is a team that can give you those big plays. So I expect it to be a simple 4-man rush kind of, especially since you have Deshaun Elliott back now. Not that he's the center fielder Javon Holland is, but you just have another veteran voice back there that's more comfortable in the defense.
And Cam Smith is also inactive today. I should mention that. So their second-round pick, who has not played a whole lot, doesn't seem to be quite on the same page with Vic Fangio at this stage. By the way, you mentioned rushing with 4. One guy you and I both like, and I'm definitely playing it on Prize Picks, is Bradley Chubb over a quarter of a sack. That feels like stealing today, which means it won't hit. But anyway, use the code 5, FIVE. Michael, let's get to it before we pivot over to the Dolphin offense. Dallas has been 2 completely different offenses. They average 20 points more at home than they do on the road. They average, obviously, a lot more points against bad teams than they do against good teams. I think we all agree the Dolphins are a good team. We'll see how good today. What would be your defensive approach?
Dallas, really, where they have had a lot of success in the past, is all predicated on the run and then getting into play action with that deep stable of receivers. And Jake Ferguson's really come on. But when you don't let them run the ball well and you make them one-dimensional, which has happened quite a few times this year, particularly on the road, as you mentioned, they can be someone who can be put in a box pretty easily. So you've got to give CeeDee Lamb an absolute ton of attention here. He is an absolute dude. But as Eric mentioned, having Elliott, Brandon Jones, finally looking like we saw him as a rookie after coming back from all those injuries, that you got to take the top away from Dallas with CeeDee Lamb, with Gallup, with guys like that, get them into long drives, because they're not running the ball terribly well. And so if you can kind of bottle them up that way, I think you can make it a pretty long day on Dallas.
All right, let's pivot to the other side here. To his number, I think we talked about this on Prize Picks on 5, that is around 267.5. Hill's in the 90s. Hill, look, he was close to playing last week. So, they took a little bit of a precaution here. I still kind of feel that this is a Jalen Waddle game. In a lot of different ways. Dallas's secondary can be exploited. There have been some turnovers that they've created, but I do think you can move the ball against them. McDaniel talked about scripting the first 24 plays. They've come out of the gate really well. Feel like they'll win the toss again and defer, because is what happens every game. How would you attack the Dallas defense, Eric?
The Dallas Cowboys have kind of given you a. There's a formula for how to beat the Cowboys, and it's out there. And the formula is this Dallas defense is really good when they're playing from ahead and they're playing with a lead and they can pin their ears back and get aggressive. They're not very good when they're playing in a tight game and they have to defend the run all game long. They gave up 266 to the Bills. Josh Allen had less than 100 yards passing. This is a team this is where the Dolphins are going to have to attack them on the ground, and then eventually the deep shots will open up. The Dallas defense will soften up for you, and there will be those shots to Tyreek or Jalen Waddle at some point in the game. But this is going to be, I think, this is going to have to be a really concerted run game effort from Mike McDaniel.
Yeah, I mean, to me, Michael, I think, and it can be A-Chain or Mostert, but I think they need 20 carries minimum from their two lead backs. That's get to the 20 carries. I feel like they'll push over 100 yards. Mostert didn't really run the ball that well. He even talked about that after the game last week. He got the 2 touchdowns, so it didn't matter. But the Jets did some things against him that I don't think Dallas can do. I'm playing Mostert over on everything today, by the way. I think he's healthy enough at this stage of the season. We don't see that with running backs. And I think he's going to have a big game today. But the offensive line, again, is a little different. I mean, it seems to be different every week. So, Michael, how would you attack offensively?
Yeah, I have to agree with Eric on this that, Mike McDaniel tries to say that he likes an even pass and run game and so forth. But if you made him pick a favorite child, his favorite child's the run game. And I think if you look back on this and the Dolphins offense dominates today, that box scores can be filled with a lot of rushing attempts and a lot of rushing yards. I think this is going to be a good day for both Mostert and Achane to really get theirs. And I think we're going to see some drives where it's just run. Now, on the prize pick side, I don't like to live that dangerously that I would take an under on Tyreek Hill. That's a good way to lose money pretty quickly, but and some years off your life. But I really think this is gonna be a big day for running the ball. And I don't even know if Tua gets over that number just because I don't think he'll have to. I think they'll just run it until Dallas is able to tell him, hey, we can stop this. And then guess what? You have that guy Tyreek and that other guy Jalen who are pretty good.
Well, I'll tell you this. I know some Dallas media pretty well. A couple of them used to work down here in Miami. They aren't sold on their team that they cover. They feel a lot of the narratives that we hear about the Dolphins and the Cowboys. I think they actually believe a lot of those narratives on the Cowboys. I don't know necessarily the people who cover the Dolphins believe some of the narratives. I think you look at it, the Dolphins have lost to those. Obviously, the Titans game is an anomaly and totally on them and all the rest of it. They won that game. They should have closed that game, but they were right there with the Chiefs. Bills was early in the season, and the Philly game, I don't know with the officiating that they would have had any opportunity to win that game. So I'll start with my pick today. I think the Dolphins win today. I think it's a 10-point win, something along those lines. And I think it's exactly for the thing that you guys have talked about, the run game. I think that they'll be able to get that going. I think he'll actually use the pass to set up the run a little bit today. There's some short passing with Tua. I wouldn't be surprised. No Craycraft. I wouldn't be surprised if Berrios gets a little bit more involved today. Smythe gets a little bit more involved today. I think one of the things that was positive that came out of last week was they had to spread the ball around, even though Waddle was featured. I think that will help with Hill coming back. McDaniel sees things, tends to incorporate them the next week. So I don't think that they're going to force the ball to Tyreek Hill today. I think you'll see others get involved. And then I think more of a running game with Mostert, which, like I said, if you're using that code 5, I would play Raheem today. Mike, I'll go to you first with your pick. Dolphins get to 11-4 today?
Yeah, I got Miami 31-21 in this. I see a turnover or two for Dak Prescott. I see a big day for the backs. I can see 200 yards rushing today for Miami. I think it's going to be a lot of Mostert. I don't think he's going to stop or be stopped at any point today. So 31-21 feels about right for this one. Dallas really struggles on the road, and I think that's going to continue.
One thing for Dallas is it's not, and I know it's not the case for them anywhere because they have fans all over the country. It's not a total road game today. I will tell you, walking into the building, I would say 20 to 25% Cowboy fans, which is a healthy chunk. I think some Dolphin fans sold the tickets over the holidays. So we'll see how that plays out. Eric, your pick?
Yeah, I always feel like this pick segment is kind of like The Price is Right, where I'm tempted to go 32-21 just to spite my. No, I'll go 34-21 here. I like the Dolphins by a score or two here.
Yeah, that's about where I have them. It's a 10-point win, which means that they'll lose by 30. But I do think that this narrative that they can't beat anybody has been overplayed. Look, the Chiefs were the team we were trying to measure them against at one point, middle of the season, and Tyreek had one bad play before the half, and they still had a chance to win that thing at the end in a neutral field that was mostly Chiefs fans. So I just am. I think this team. I worry more honestly about next week. Next week is a big concern. I don't feel comfortable about them going to Baltimore. We know the history there. They've got one there recently, but not mostly. I think they win today and lose next week, and then I think it sets everything else up for that Bills game in the last game of the season. So thanks to Eric. Thanks to Michael. Use that code PrizePicks. PrizePicks. Use the code 5. After the game, we may be on the YouTube channel, but we will definitely be on playback. The Inside Leverage guys are going to be on there starting at 8 o'clock. So we'll be promoting that from the 5 Reasons Twitter account. And also, videos will be posted here after the game from the locker room. Have a good one, everybody.